the Lashon Hara is an important thing, and I'm lucky that it was embedded in me how important it is when I went in the yeshiva that I attended in Israel. Not many yeshivas learn the laws of Lashon Hara, but I went to this yeshiva called Merkaz Rav in Jerusalem, and the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Tzuda Cook, instituted in the yeshiva schedule that the students learn the laws of Lashon Hara every day between 1 to 1:15, right before Mincha. And he said that we want our Talmidei Chachamim, our rabbis, to grow up day after day learning 15 minutes. You don't need too much. And we want them they should live with menschlichkeit, and they should not speak negatively about each other. And so that's how they trained us. And so we learned it every day. There are a lot of laws in the book of Chafetz Chaim put together. He lived 2 generations ago. He put together a compendium of all these laws connected to it. It's kind of lengthy when you try to get through it. There are books that have a lesson per day. And I think it's translated to English also. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's that. What?
In the library, there's one.
So you have a lesson a day, and it's not just that in Israel they have groups that talk on the telephone, not Lashon Hara. They talk about Lashon Hara together and how to not fall prey to it. So it's kind of like spreading, and it's a really important thing. They say that the first temple was destroyed for the 3 cardinal sins of idol worshiping, murder, and illicit sexual acts. But the second temple was destroyed due to baseless hatred and speaking Lashon Hara. So it's like a really serious thing. A common misconception about it is that once you learn all the laws of Lashon Hara, you won't have anything to say. You won't be able to talk to anybody. You'll just be sitting in silence. So there's a story about the Chafetz Chaim who put together the book where whenever he would come to people's house, he would talk the whole time. Just to show them there's a lot to talk about aside from Lashon Hara. So I just want to give you like two points connected to Lashon Hara. One is there's 3 main categories of Lashon Hara. One is called rechilus, which is gossiping. So it doesn't have to necessarily be something negative. You're just gossiping. Did you hear about that? Did you hear about John? What happened at work today? And you're constantly doing that all the time. That can lead to bad things. You spreading messages about people, them hearing it, them sharing it to other people. Before you know it, that person's information's out there, and they never asked for you to share it. So that's rechilus. The next category is Lashon Hara, which literally means Lashon is tongue, Ra means evil. And that's when you speak negatively, disparaging about somebody else. And that doesn't necessarily have to be something false, even if it's true, right? So, did you hear about Jack? He just got canned yesterday from work. It's true. You have to share it to ruin his reputation among other people. No, you shouldn't do that. There's certain laws, like if something's already public information, that's another story. But we'll talk about that maybe. And the last one is Motzi Shem Ra, which literally means Motzi is to take out, to spread, Shem, name, Ra, evil. To spread someone's evil name, that's when you lie. You're spreading false ideas and stories about somebody. So those are the 3 categories: gossip, evil tongue, and false reports. Now I just want to share with you it's a very popular parable connected to Lashon Hara. So there's a story about this gentleman who was kind of used to, he was called a Baal Lashon Hara, which is someone who speaks it all the time. And so he's speaking, he's hanging out with this, he's having a beer. Oh, did you hear about that? Sharing these and that. And before you know it, he shared something that was really negative about an individual. And the people who were with him, they heard the story and they went on and shared it with somebody else. Before you know it, this individual, his story got out. Maybe someone tweeted it, and before you know it, it became viral, and it got spread all over the place. And they lost their job. They had troubles with their family, and they kind of were in a really low place. He felt so bad that he shared that Lashon Hara that he went to his Rebbe and asked his Rebbe, "How can I make it better? How can I solve and correct what I did wrong?" And so the Rebbe said, I have a solution for you. I want you to bring, tomorrow come back to me and bring a pillow with you. And he said, okay, why do you want me to bring a pillow? You want me to sell pillows? I have expensive pillows. Bring a pillow with you that has feathers in it. He said, okay, I'll bring a pillow with you. I trust the Rebbe. He brought a pillow the next day. And he presented, here's the pillow, my Rebbe. What do I do now? And the Rebbe goes, okay, now take this knife and tear it open. He goes, Okay, if the Rebbe said so, I'll do it. So he teared it open. He goes, now, cast all the feathers up in the air. Okay, the Rebbe said to do it, I'll do it. Cast all the feathers. The feathers spread all over town, all over the area, all over the bookcase, over the chairs, over the bed, everywhere. He goes, okay, Rebbe, now what? He goes, okay, now I want you to collect them. Collect all the feathers. So he goes, Rebbe, get serious. I'm not going to be able to collect all these feathers. It's impossible. He goes, that's the same thing that happens when you speak Lashon Harah. You speak this word, that negative message. Before you know it, it gets spread, and you can never get it back. You can't get it back. You ruin someone's reputation. They could be ruined for life. And so he said, still, Rebbe, how do I get better? He goes, well, from now on, try to improve yourself, learn the laws of Lashon Harah, become a better person, and try to improve in this area. So one way to help repair that and correct that is to learn some of the laws. Now, they can be overwhelming and daunting. There's a lot of them. So you take small steps, or do a little bit more. You find yourself, just gossiping for no reason about somebody, maybe refrain a little bit from it. Take baby steps, but every step is good, and it helps improve the status of the nation, they say, and also our own personal spirituality. Last time I spoke with you, I addressed some of the laws of Lashon Harah, which is evil. The evil tongue, literally, that's what it means. It's bad speech about other people. I want to talk a little bit, add a few more details to that. Why is Lashon Harah? It's considered one of the more serious sins. Why is it so serious? Speech is considered the central faculty of humans, and this is what makes us different from the animal kingdom. So if we use our speech for good, we're doing an especially good thing, because it's a very special faculty, and use it for good, it's an especially good act, and vice versa. Doing it negative, using it for negative purposes, it's a really negative act. Now, here are I'll talk about some misconceptions connected to Lashon Harah, and a few examples of it. And maybe in another class talk about when you can speak Lashon Harah. There are times when you should speak negatively, maybe to warn people. There are a lot of different cases. But for now, we'll just talk about misconceptions as an example. So some misconceptions. So some people think Lashon Harah is only forbidden in speech, but if you're writing too about the individual, it's also considered Lashon Harah. So to be careful not to write disparaging about people and to make people look bad in front of other people. Here's another example of Lashon Harah. Okay, someone comes up to you and they're talking to you really nicely about some other individual, Yosef. That Yosef, he's a really special guy. You don't say anything. You just go, you make a face, or you raise your eyebrows. Even in gestures, through your gestures, it can be considered Lashon Harah if you're relaying a negative message about that individual to somebody else. Here's another one. There's a thing called the dust of Lashon Harah, and it's even more intricate, where you're around somebody that you're upset. Somebody hurt your feelings. Okay, and you're upset at that person. You want to find a way to express, to get that, to kind of give expression to that, or to ease that discomfort inside of you. So one way to do it is to find somebody to talk to. You can find a confidant to talk to about your issues and to work them through and to feel better about yourself. Let's say you're upset at that person. Now, you have somebody next to you who also doesn't like that person. So either you could talk negatively, but you could do it even more complicated way, where you start sharing positive things about them, and that person next to you will start speaking negatively. Oh, that Rebecca, she's a great woman. She's the best. No, she's not. You and me both know. So that's another way to kind of speak positively when you know that the person next to you doesn't like them. There's another one. Speaking Lashon Harah is also forbidden, but listening or accepting it's also considered part of the prohibition. So let's say you're in a group and a lot of people are speaking negatively about an individual. So ideally, you should find a way to change the topic or not listen or zone out or something. Because I don't know, if that person was in the room, would you be involved in those kind of discussions, or are you just doing it when they're not in the room? So it's also listening to it is problematic. Now, here are some examples of speaking Lashon Harah. So Chavetz Chaim, he put together the book, the halachic book on the topic, and he brought a few examples in his book. One is if you're speaking, there are a lot of examples. I mean, there's an infinite amount of examples, but one, he talks about wisdom. Let's say you're talking about somebody, and you think, that Steve, he's not really that smart, or that was a really dumb thing he said. Just you're speaking about somebody in terms of their intellect. He brings another example in terms of their wealth. That family, did you see them the other day? They were asking for handouts You're sharing that information, even if it's true. It makes that family look bad. Or do you see what they're wearing? It says that clothing, that's not designer clothing. That's, who knows? It's not in Israel they used to have this brand Hike, which is like supposed to be Nike, but it says like Hike. So they're wearing hikes, not Nikes, so something like that. Another one is like to talk about their past, right? So you're hanging out, this guy is in your shul, has this really big long beard and this hat and payas, the whole thing. And someone, you're discussing, but you remember that dude from a few years ago. He wouldn't have such a long didn't have such a long beard at that time. He was completely not religious, doing negative things. So don't share that with other people. People don't need to know that unless it's for a constructive purpose. They don't need to know that. It's tempting sometimes to do it, but we don't want to make each other look bad. That's really the bottom line. And the more we can withhold ourselves from making our fellow Jews look bad, that's the main idea behind it. So here, how does one protect oneself from speaking Lashon Harah? We've learned some examples, learned some misconceptions, learned its seriousness. How does one protect oneself from speaking Lashon Harah? So first off, learning the laws is a pretty direct and easy way to protect oneself from speaking. So it's not even that you remember every single law, but just that you know it's a thing, right? To remember, it's a thing to not speak Lashon Harah, not speak negatively about people. If you know that it's an important thing to be careful with, then you will be a little bit more careful with it. Another one, kind of like a funny one, but it has a deeper message. It's brought in Masechet Ketubot. It says, the Gemara asks, why do our fingers look like pegs? Are you familiar with this? So that they can fit perfectly in our ears when people are speaking negatively about people. That's the whole reason. And they say, why are earlobes soft? Because if someone's speaking negatively, you can fold them in and not hear. So I can't hear anything. So I don't know if that's like scientifically the reason, but the message is basically like if you're around it, try to withhold yourself from listening to it in any ways you can. And lastly, the Torah juxtaposes the laws of slandering other people in Vayikra 19. A few verses later it says, love your neighbor as yourself. And earlier it says, do not slander. And also says, don't hate your neighbor in your heart. And so I think the deeper message is, you could be careful, you could put your fingers in your ears, your earlobes, the whole thing. But if you really love somebody, if you really work on loving other people, you'll feel uncomfortable speaking about them. Like, let's say someone's speaking about somebody you really look up to, or somebody you really love, a family member. You're going to feel uncomfortable when they're doing that, and you might not engage in it unless you're upset with them for whatever reason. But so really, that's the root of it. And so the more we work on that, more we work on loving other people, and that often comes through loving ourselves. Then we'll be more protected from speaking Lashon. So today I just want to talk a little bit about the other side of speaking Lashon Harah, which is speaking Lashon Harah for a positive purpose, in order to benefit other people. What does that mean? Speaking in an evil way, and that through which that speech would lead to something positive. So just why is it important to talk about Lashon Harah? I talked about this a few times, but I want to offer another side to this. I believe that in addition to the fact that it's a central piece of our Jewish law, that you shouldn't speak badly about other people. There's a lot written about this. I think also it's really important for our own welfare to not speak bad about other people. There's something about being honest with ourselves and being upright individuals where we speak the same way about somebody behind closed doors and act the same way towards them, towards their face. There should be something... I think it leaves you a certain good feeling about yourself when you're speaking the same way to their face as you're speaking about them behind their back. So I think it's really important in that sense. Now, there are some laws connected to when we can speak Lashon Harah. And there are times you need to warn other people about somebody. So let's say someone moved to your neighborhood and you know that you knew them from the old hood, and whenever they were your neighbor back then, now they follow you to your new neighborhood. And you know that whenever they asked you to borrow something, they never returned it. And so now they moved to this new neighborhood. They're meeting the new neighbors, and they're asking. You can go around. You can share with them that be careful, beware that this person tends not to return items. That's an example. Or let's say you have an employee, someone applying to a job at a place of employment where you're working. So you know a little bit about this individual. Maybe you can say you're allowed to say something if you believe this individual will harm the business. Another example of this is in terms of shidduch. So someone's looking for a shidduch, and you know about that individual that they have a tough history. They had maybe they have some sort of certain issues, personal issues. Now you have to be careful what you share and not share, but sometimes it's your obligation to share something if it's not being shared. So that's an example of speaking negatively, but for a positive purpose.
Maybe the person changed their ways.
So possibly, that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful with it. But if, on the other hand, you should maybe preface what you're saying with that also. But sometimes there's an obligation to share. If you know this person's done some horrible things, and the individual who's going into or let's say they have history of some sort of mental illness or something, and you know about it, and you know it from up close, and they're not sharing it, and they're going into the marriage without sharing that piece of information. Many marriages have, broken up due to the fact that those details were not shared. So you have to be very careful with it, because it's a very fine line between speaking badly about individuals and sharing what you need to share. And that's why it also says that there are two laws connected to this where you shouldn't exaggerate. That's number one. And also you should be careful to have the right intentions. So let's say this individual also harmed you in the past. You come there and you're sharing, you have to be careful of this shidduch. And then you start adding all these other things because you don't want them to have any you don't want to have any happiness in their life. So to be careful. Another time when speaking negatively might be beneficial is sometimes you just need to express your feelings about something. You can't just not share anything about anybody to know all the time. So it's good to find individuals that you can speak to, and instead of sharing, spreading the wealth all over the place, find certain individuals you trust, therapists or family members or whoever, and share with them. And when you're sharing with them, also in a careful way. But it's important to sometimes when you don't share, you end up sharing much more than you want to share. So it's important to find people you trust and you can share with them what you're going through. Someone raise their hand? Yeah.
Does it make a difference whether you're volunteering the information or you're being asked about something?
No, it doesn't. And no matter what, if it's not for a beneficial purpose, then no. If someone's asking you something, or if you're initiating, you're not supposed to speak negatively for the same reason that we want to. We're all one big family. You don't want to speak about your family members in a bad way. So if somebody asks you, "Oh, tell me a little bit about your sister, or your brother, your mother, your father," if they initiated it, that wouldn't make it any better. So it's the same idea. So that's in terms of speaking. We talked about speaking negatively. We talked about negatively for a positive purpose. How do you fix the sin of Lashon Harah? So any ideas on that? How do you fix it? Like, say you spoke negatively about somebody. How do you fix it?
That's part of the Misconceptions.
So you pray. Right at the end of the end of prayer, at the end of the Amida, the Shemona Esrei, there's a prayer there. Actually, it says, "God, protect me from speaking negatively." So that's one way to pray, that you won't fall prey to that. Any other ideas on how to correct it?
Always apologize.
You could apologize, yeah. Or you could be more careful going forward. Here's another way. This is what I like to call. I thought I coined this, but then I saw Rabbi Sachs also use this term. So apparently, maybe I don't know. Maybe I read it once.
Got it from you.
Or probably vice versa. Probably I read it once and it got stuck in my head. But there's this. He talks about Lashon Tov, right? We don't talk about that at all. Talk about Lashon Harah. Don't speak. Lashon means tongue. Ra means bad. What about the good tongue? How about speaking positively? And so maybe, because our sages say that when you do something negative with a certain limb, you should try to do something positive with that same limb in order to rectify what you did. So how about speaking positively about each other? Here are a few ways to do it. So just like you would go behind people, so you might have gone behind someone back and speak negatively, maybe spread good things about individuals, not necessarily even that individual. Start spreading good things about individuals behind their back. That's okay to do. And now, it doesn't even have to be behind their back. It's sometimes even harder in front of the individual. But let's say you saw someone do something really well. You saw it, and you're thinking, wow, you're impressed. And maybe it triggered a little jealousy, maybe not. But you did appreciate what they did. Share it with them. It's hard to do sometimes. It takes a certain humility, and it's hard to do. But that's a way of speaking good, the Lashon HaTov. Another one is, yeah.
How about the concept that you hear when speaking about Lashon Harah, that they say it's better not to talk about anybody because it can go on from there like telephone and be
Yes.
misinterpreted, and then it becomes Lashon Harah.
You're completely right. So we talked about the last talk where, let's say you're hanging out with somebody that you know really doesn't like that person, right? And so you start talking, oh, that person, they're great. You should have seen what they did. Really? Every time, So you have to be careful who you're saying it with and in front of. You have to be really careful with that because you could also lead to Lashon Harah also. So you have to be careful. But I don't think that should withhold us from trying to spread good messages and good vibes about people. One other one is, let's say sometimes when we're involved in Lashon Harah, you see the certain weaknesses that the individual has and you talk about them with other people, or you might see a weakness in somebody and try to speak negatively to them to their face about that. Let's see you see them, they're insecure about something and you pick up on that. And then you mention like a backhanded comment about that. So a correction to that would be to see the weaknesses and try to elevate them at those places. If you sense they're insecure maybe about something, about their not knowing something, or about not looking, not dressing a certain way in the right setting. Try to uplift them. Try to lift them up in that place with your words. And through that, you're actually speaking Lashon HaTov. So there are a few examples of that. Our Parsha actually has a good example of Lashon HaTov. Anybody think of what it is?
You're talking
Yeah.
when he, instead of curses, he blesses.
Yeah, so in our Parsha we have Bilam. So he was employed to do a certain job, but he completely failed. He was employed to curse Am Yisrael, Chas v'Shalom, God forbid. But he ended up not being able to curse them because God put blessings in his mouth. He ended up blessing them, blessing Am Yisrael. And one of his blessings actually lasted until today. And it's in our prayer book. We say it in the beginning of our prayers.
How goodly are tents?
Yeah, exactly. On page 21, how goodly are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. And I think the idea behind that is that just like when you speak something negative about somebody, it can last for a long time and affect them. Speaking positively has the same power. And you see, this is the lasting power of these words. Even made it into our prayer, made it into the Torah, made it into our prayer books, and we say it every day. And so that's the power of positive speech. May we merit to do that.